And we are coming on the air with the latest update from the National Hurricane Center just in the last 90 seconds on Idalia. Now a tropical storm barreling through Georgia and up to the Carolinas. It has already turned deadly. And even though it's getting weaker, the winds are still something like 70 miles an hour. The storm surge plus the flooding still a huge issue. Look at this. You see in Georgia, water knee high, starting to flood into some garages, with the worst yet to come there after this storm has left a trail of destruction in Florida, making landfall as a Category 3, the strongest storm to hit that Big Bend area in more than a century. And as we speak, the urgent and desperate mission to rescue anybody who needs it. Look at this. You can see crews out combing the streets in the panhandle of Florida. And the race to restore power to the nearly 500,000 who do not have it right now in the southeast, it is on. Although, look at this. This scary picture shows why officials want people to turn their power off if their house is flooded, because of the risk of fire. You can see the flames coming up, even though there's water coming up the side of that building. The wind is something like 125 miles an hour. You can see how strong those gusts can get, with the roof of this gas station flipping, taking those gas pumps with it. In Perry, Florida, houses ripped apart. This one here on the left, basically left with no roof, just its walls. You can see the bed even sitting there in what used to be a bedroom. On top of that, so much flooding, not just from the rain, but from the storm surge. Look at this bed and breakfast in Cedar Key, totally washed out. This is the roof of the building. That's the roof, just getting hammered. The front door, the furniture scattered on the side, scattered everywhere. Look at that shot. We're going to be talking to the owner of that inn a little bit later on this hour. We are now learning that 2 people have been killed in separate car crashes, with Florida's governor saying in just the last few minutes, a lot of people did pay attention to those warnings to get out before it was too late.
The storm surge there was enough to potentially be life-threatening if people didn't take proper precautions. But I think most of the people did, and I think they probably really protected themselves and their families as a result.
You can imagine it has been a headache for anybody trying to fly in or out of the state. Across both Georgia and Florida, we're seeing almost 1,000 flights canceled or delayed. Some airports are starting to open back up, but others further east are shutting down now as the storm shifts. And just to pull back to show you how big this storm was, look at this. This is from the International Space Station. Capturing this hurricane from above as it flew over, you can actually see some of the funnel clouds there. We've got our team of reporters out in the field covering every angle of this story. But I want to get first to meteorologist Bill Cairns on this latest update. Just into us, top of the hour, Bill, 2 minutes ago from the National Hurricane Center. Talk us through what we're learning.
Yeah, we want this storm to get out of here as fast as possible. The quicker we can get this storm to move to the east, we lessen and lower the chances of that high tide in Savannah and Charleston doing significant damage. More happy for Savannah at this point. I think we're going to avoid the peak winds with that high tide. But Charleston, it's going to be a very close call for you. And we actually have, do expect it to be worse in Charleston than Savannah. So here's the new forecast position. The storm is about to head into South Carolina already. It is a tropical storm. It only went down 5 miles per hour. The wind really hasn't been doing a ton of damage in the last couple hours anyways. But look at that forward speed. We like that. We want this thing to get out of here. It's already moving at 21 miles per hour. The Hurricane Center brings it past Charleston towards about Georgetown at 2 a.m. in the morning. So you can kind of roughly figure out that it's going to be the closest to Charleston, probably right around 9 p.m. tonight. High tide is roughly going to be about 8:30. So again, it's unfortunately the strongest winds are going to be close to that high tide, and that's why we think that we could be in a little trouble there with the storm surge mixing in with the astronomical high tide, because we got this big old full moon out there tonight too, which isn't helping matters. So Savannah, 7:37 p.m., so we're only roughly about 2.5 hours away from your high tide. But I think when we get to the high tide, you should be on the backside of the storm, so that wind, instead of pushing the water towards the coast, will be blowing it out. You see the arrows on here? This shows you the wind direction at about 6 p.m. this evening. And you notice the onshore flow here heading into the Charleston area. So that's why the water is going to be building. But in the backside here, Brunswick and Jacksonville, we call that a blowout tide. The wind is going to be actually pushing the high tide off the coast. Your water levels will actually be pretty low. So the main concern area is in between, I'd say, Hilton Head all the way to Charleston, back up here to Georgetown. I think those are the greatest areas of concern. Of course, we could see isolated tornadoes. We do have a tornado warning with a band just outside of Charleston. Charleston. I'm actually seeing another one with a band near kind of what used to be the center of the storm, not too far from Savannah. These tornadoes, the risk area at least, goes until about 10 p.m. Once the sun sets, I think that'll help a little bit. We've now extended flash flood warnings from Georgia into South Carolina. We got a really narrow area with some very heavy torrential rains. That's going to be about 20 miles inland off the coast. In all, we got roughly about 15 million people under flood watches, and the heaviest rain from here on out, and this is in addition to what's already fallen. And in North Carolina, we could see another 5 to 7 inches of rain, Hallie. So we're getting to that critical time. We got about 3 hours here till we get to that high tide in the southeast coastal areas. Again, the big, my big takeaway from the 5 o'clock update is that faster forward speed helps Savannah, but it may not be fast enough for Charleston. That's who I'm worried about the most.
Bill Cairns, thank you. We're live in both of those cities. I want to take them in order. We'll start in Savannah with Lindsay Reiser, where, as Bill is laying out here, the storm hitting, maybe not going to hit you as hard as it's going to hit Charleston, but give us a sense of what the updates are and what you're seeing.
Well, Hallie, I mean, the mayor is still saying that this, even though it's weakening as it travels, it could still hit us as a Cat 1. So we could still see wind gusts of 80 miles an hour. Hopefully, by the time it reaches us, it could be downgraded to a tropical storm, but we'll have to see. Now, the mayor says that the storm, we can expect that impact from now basically until 10 p.m. There was a smaller window that the governor provided, but we have already seen since Idalia came into Georgia, more than 100,000 people without power. We've seen flash flooding in some areas. We've also seen trees down. And of course, you have to think of a place like Savannah. They have 80,000 trees here. And so the concerns are, of course, the water surges, the coastal flood surge, heavy rain, also that heavy wind. Now, when we also talk about the surrounding areas, we've seen Tybee Island. They've been dealing with really, really heavy winds, which has affected the tide. They're about 16 miles east of where we are toward the coast. We have nearby Camden County, about 90 miles to the south of us. They're actually telling people to conserve their water because of the power outages. It's affecting the water systems. So, Hallie, we're still to see potentially the worst is yet to come in terms of the wind, but we have already seen quite an impact here in the state of Georgia.
Yeah, no kidding. There's also the risk of potential tornadoes, right? That's something that you're also watching?
Yeah, we have tornado watches. We've had some warnings here in Georgia in the areas, but we still have a tornado watch. I mean, flights have been canceled. Schools are closed. The bridge behind me is closed. It's kind of a bunch of different warnings and watches that we are watching. And then when you have a place like Savannah, we're low-lying. We're surrounded by water. And so right here on the river, we've already seen some changes throughout the day. We've seen a stronger current. We've seen some whitecaps. We've seen the water coming up and then receding again. And, of course, Bill's talking about that high tide. Here with that full moon. So we will be out here monitoring everything that's happening. But certainly, while people haven't been evacuating in this area, the mayor is telling people, hunker down, ride it out, don't go out in it, Hallie.
Lindsay Reiser live for us there in Savannah, Georgia. Lindsay, thank you. I want to get to Charleston, South Carolina. Kathy Park is there. We know the airport's going to shut down in the next hour or so. And Kathy, you heard it from Bill Cairns. That latest update just in the last 8 minutes suggesting that Charleston could be in for it. You have a potential risk of storm surge, flooding, and the storm's going to hit overnight in the dark. We know that's an added challenge for some of these emergency responders.
Hallie, that's absolutely right, and we're kind of getting a preview of what's to come right now. You can probably see the showers. We've been getting downpours throughout the day today, but the wind has really started to pick up. We're here along the Battery right now, which is an iconic location in Charleston, and right behind me is the Charleston Harbor, and you can probably see the waves starting to pick up. Well, as you heard Bill mention, the timing of the storm will be critical because it could coincide with the high tide. So here in the low country, flooding is always a big concern, but when you combine that high tide, this water that you see here could be lapping over the seawall. So in anticipation of this storm, a lot of the residents in this area, as well as business owners, began stacking up sandbags in front of their homes, in front of their stores. And also, we should point out, this is a very busy area for tourists. We're just a couple of days from the busy holiday weekend, and we had a chance to speak with some folks along King Street. They're visiting from Minneapolis, and they say that they're not going to be changing their plans. They're going to hunker it out and hunker down and basically ride out the storm. Take a listen.
We're kind of just trusting our hotel to let us know what to do and when it happens. Like if it's anything more is needed from us or from them. So we feel pretty safe.
And Hallie, earlier today, we were driving along King Street. A lot of the businesses there are closed as of this afternoon. They plan on reassessing kind of how things play out during the overnight hours. They plan on reopening tomorrow. But flash flooding also an issue earlier in the day as well, because we've been basically hit with these heavy bands of rain as well as these winds. So that's been kind of the pattern that we've been monitoring throughout the course of the day.
I see in the live shot that right in front of you there, Kathy, behind you, next to you, people walking around, people taking it in a bit. There are no evacuation orders, right? We've heard that from the governor there. He says there's not going to be sort of a forcible push to get people to leave, but he is asking people to stay inside, right?
Hallie, that's absolutely right. Right now, there are no evacuation orders in place, but he did say that starting at 6 o'clock, he wants folks to stay indoors. Do not risk it. He also said don't risk the lives of emergency responders to come rescue you if that is something that they have to do. So be mindful of that. Obviously, conditions are starting to deteriorate and will only worsen in the coming hours. But once again, the timeline of this will be critical. We anticipate the bulk of the storm to hit somewhere in the 8, 9 o'clock hour, and that's when, of course, we'll be monitoring the high tide as well.
Kathy Park live for us. They're in Charleston, which is bracing to get hit by Idalia next. Kathy, thank you so much. I want to bring in now Mandy Lemmerman, Dixie County Fire and Rescue Battalion Chief and Public Information Officer. Thank you so much for being with us, Chief. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Talk to me about power outages. The latest numbers show something like 90% of people there do not have it. What's the estimation for when they could get it back? And how are you even getting in touch with folks when cell service is, I would imagine, pretty shot?
Oh, absolutely. We went from absolutely no cell service when the storm first hit, and Verizon and AT&T is our two big cellular companies in the area, and they've worked hard to help try to restore what they can. As far as utility companies, they're working hand in hand with not only our public works, but also with law enforcement and the fire department to mitigate the most busiest and most important infrastructure in our county first. The last update for residents and still businesses that we got was close to 10,000 outages for us when we have a population of roughly 20,000 in our last census. That just goes to show you that about pretty much half of our population is out of power at this time. Luckily, though, we have a lot of people that have generators, and they're being very cautious and safe with them. And we also still have our general population shelter open that people had a great evacuation to, that they're still able to get air conditioning and power there, as well as food.
To the best of your knowledge, Chief Lemmerman, has everybody who needs help at this point gotten it, so far as you know?
As far as we know, yes. Our biggest concern, we had two of them, and one of the biggest ones was our coastal communities. In the storm surge, they predicted close to 16 foot. The last number we got, and we're still in the community, so I can't give you a full description of what has all happened, but we do know there's major destruction down there. But the last estimate is that we have lost no lives yet. The Task Force 1 out of Miami is fixing to arrive, and they're going to finish up going door to door for us to give us a more up-to-date later on number of if we actually have any lives lost or anybody that's been unaccounted for. But as of right now, we have no reports of anybody being accounted for, so we're very blessed with that. Yeah. I know our neighbors to the north in Taylor County are still working diligently to try to confirm that as well. It was definitely a rough one for our two counties.
Absolutely, and obviously so many people around the country hoping it remains that way. No lives lost in York County. Have you had a sense yet to wrap your head around what the rebuilding process may look like? We've seen, and we're looking at some of the images of the damage. It is significant there in a place that hasn't been hit, as you know, directly by a hurricane like this in 125 years.
Yeah, absolutely. It's never in our lifetime or anybody's lifetime that's currently working, and we're still, I think, running on pure adrenaline and trying to do the best to mitigate as many hazards as we can quickly and safely. So I don't think we've really been able to sit down and grasp it yet. I know I haven't, just trying to push out information and make sure our resources get where they go. But the state has been amazing in helping us get those resources here with the Task Force, with Florida Department of Law Enforcement and the National Guard. It's just been a true new undertaking that they've been amazing in sending resources that we've needed because we're a small little rural department. So we've definitely exhausted our resources. To have that relief come from the state has been amazing. And I know in the next couple of days, when we realize the amount of actual damage and we get those numbers and actually get to see it, it will be very devastating to us because this is home. But I know our little county is very resilient, and we have a lot of great and amazing people here. So we'll definitely build back amazing and be stronger than ever, like always.
Dixie County Fire Chief Mandy Lemmerman. Chief Lemmerman, thank you so much for being with us. I know it has been a long and difficult day for you and your team. Appreciate it. I want to go over now to Maggie Vespa, who was also in Florida in the state capital of Tallahassee. Bit of a sigh of relief there after being spared the worst of the storm, Maggie, but it doesn't mean they're out of the woods entirely. We've seen the damage. Talk me through it.
Yeah, so it doesn't mean they're out of the woods because they still have a lot of repair, a lot of power restoration left to go. But basically, people here in Tallahassee really feeling like they dodged a bullet when it comes to this storm. The local sheriff telling me, and you'll hear from him in a second, but basically telling me that, in his words, they were expecting like a Hurricane Katrina type situation. And really, they have minimal damage, mostly power outage in this area. You look at the numbers, you can see just kind of how sort of favorable this actually turned out compared to, again, what they were expecting. A couple dozen downed trees, a few dozen blocked roads, damaged structures, just 16. People still in shelters, 27. And again, the sheriff telling me he, especially knowing how bad this could have been, knowing what his first responders were bracing for, is just really feeling thankful that things weren't far worse. Take a listen.
Our major concerns right now are outages, utility outages, electric outages. We've got about 40,000 persons without utilities in our community, without lights and power. We're very fortunate here in Leon County that we're talking about utilities being our only major concern.
And we should note that those local numbers here in Leon County, basically where Tallahassee is, have come down. By my count, in the city of Tallahassee, about 25,000 is where they are. People still without power. Crews working across the state. Of course, that's a story across the state. The governor tweeting out recently that more than 250,000 people have had their power restored just today. But I want to leave you with this image from, speaking of the governor's mansion, tweeted out by Florida's First Lady, Casey DeSantis, of this 100-year-old oak tree that fell on the governor's mansion. The First Lady saying she was home with their kids at the time, that no one is hurt, but that their thoughts and prayers are with those affected by this storm. So this is an area that has a ton of old trees, Hallie, a ton of big trees. Case in point, when the rare strong storm does roll through, catastrophic things, of course, can happen. Hallie.
Maggie Vespa live for us there in Tallahassee. Maggie, thank you very much. We want to stay in Florida with the sheriff of Levy County, Bobby McCallum. Sheriff McCallum, thank you for being with us tonight. I know it's been a long day for you.
Yeah, a long couple of days for sure, but we have been very blessed today and during the night that we did not get the hurricane force winds that we were expecting. We're very thankful for that. We have been extremely worried about storm surge from this hurricane, and as we know, this had the potential to be one of the, if not the worst hurricane that we would experience here in Levy County and on our coastline. We're a huge geographical county. We're over 1,400 square miles here in Levy, with about 60 miles of coastline. Cedar Key, Yankeetown, and English are our coastal towns and cities. And, we had about 6.8 feet of storm surge into Cedar Key, and then we were facing a high tide at 2 o'clock today. So we were extremely concerned, but again, we were very blessed. We probably got less than another foot of water in with the high tide, and most of that water now has subsided and gone back out, and we're making a lot of progress. Our partners in Cedar Key, the fire chief, police chief there, they do a tremendous job with their citizens, and our residents are very resilient. And there and in Yankeetown, our deputies have had efforts to remove some folks that did not leave from the Yankeetown English areas, and we're able to get into them today and get them back out to safety, as well as the Cedar Key. As far as I know, I've only been made aware of a couple of injuries. I think one in Cedar Key, one in Yankeetown, but those were very minor injuries, and we were able to get them back out and get them assistance. So again, I don't know how to say it any more vividly, but we were expecting the worst, and by the movement of the cone and the eye moving just a little further north over the last two or 3 hours during the night, that really helped us and saved us, and we didn't have to experience those winds of 100 miles per hour plus. And we can deal with the storm surges, and we are dealing with it, and we will continue.
You talked about something important there, Sheriff, the idea that with the water starting to recede from what seemed to be the peak of the storm surge, the ability to get access into places you had not been able to access previously. Are there any active rescues happening right now in your area as you are able to get into some of these neighborhoods that had been affected?
I think that we have made the rounds pretty well. We still are active in both cities, just double checking and making sure we have a good idea of those who may not evacuate last night or yesterday. We knew kind of where to go and the homes to check, and both the personnel, the city, Cedar Key knew where most of their residents. I think we had over 100 that actually stayed in Cedar Key, and quite a few in Yankeetown and the Inglis area. But we were able to get in, even prior to the water receding today, and make a lot of progress. And now we'll just be continuing in a search and recovery mode into the night and tomorrow, and make sure we've covered all our bases and that everyone is truly safe. And then we'll have extra security. We've got our Florida Sheriff Association task force that is always on ready, and we'll have a group of deputies, special op deputies coming in from Polk County, from Sheriff Judd, to assist us during the next couple of nights and days to help both with cleanup and with security, and just assist my personnel. So I really thank our governor and all of our state partners, as well as our local, my deputies and my 911 personnel.
Yeah.
They've done a tremendous job as we prepared and as we've endured a lot less than we expected. So we're very thankful.
Sheriff Bobby McCallum, thank you so much of Levy County. Really appreciate you being with us. A lot of people glad that you were spared the worst of Storm Idalia. Now, again, a tropical storm downgraded from a hurricane as it continues to move east. Thank you, Sheriff. In just the last few hours, as we talk about resources for local communities like the one that the Sheriff is joining us from, President Biden is saying the federal government and FEMA will do everything they can to try to help people recover from this storm and what seems to be a constant stream of natural disasters. Listen.
How can we not respond? My God, how can we not respond to these needs? And so I'm confident, even though there's a lot of talk from some of our friends up on the Hill about the cost, we got to do it. This is the United States of America.
There is already now a disaster declaration in place for Florida that opens up more resources for that state. NBC's Kelly O'Donnell is with us for more on the federal response here. It is kind of a new normal for FEMA, Kelly, as you've heard them talk about in the last 24 hours here.
Very much so, Hallie. The FEMA administrator says the tempo of these kinds of crises has picked up, and she termed it a new normal. She also gave the caution that the amount of money available at FEMA is about $3 billion right now. And when you consider the enormity of the requirements for Maui, for everything in the path of Hurricane Idalia, money like that can go by quickly. And so the president was responding to a question from our colleague Peter Alexander about will there be enough financial support from Congress to meet the needs of FEMA as they try to meet the needs of people caught in these weather events and natural disasters. So we also heard from Deanne Criswell, the FEMA administrator, today about what's at stake here. Here's part of her briefing to reporters.
The president's main concern is making sure that we are bringing everything that we have in to support these states as they're having immediate response and life-saving needs. The president contacted Governor DeSantis to let him know that the federal family continues to be there to support him. The governor expressed that all of his needs are met currently.
And the president was also asked if there was any sense of politics in his conversation with Governor DeSantis. Each man, of course, is a candidate in the 2024 race seeking the nomination of their respective parties. And the president said no, he trusts that Governor DeSantis was dealing with him as the leader of a state in need of federal support. And he worked with him in tone and in conversation in a supportive way about that at a time when our politics are often so bitter. In this instance, the president was saying that his interactions with Governor DeSantis were focused on the needs of his state. And obviously, the president also talking a lot today about Maui and the ongoing long-term rebuilding that will be required there. Hallie?
Kelly O'Donnell live for us at the White House. Kelly, thank you so much. We are going to keep on every development here from now Tropical Storm Idalia, including the latest that we're hearing in just the last 45 seconds or so about the potential for tornadoes, where those have been reported. We're going to have a live report on that right after the break. We've also got some other news tonight, like the new questions about the health of one of the most powerful Republicans in the country, with Senator Mitch McConnell appearing to freeze again today in the middle of a news conference. But we're learning about who he's calling tonight and what they're telling NBC News. Plus, the mother of the suspended Spanish soccer head reportedly in the hospital tonight after protesting the backlash against her son. But we're hearing about her condition in the 5 things. We are back covering what is now Tropical Storm Idalia, and we are getting new information into us in just the last couple of minutes here. We have learned that there has been at least one reported tornado just a couple dozen miles north of Charleston. There's a tornado warning that is in effect in this area for the next 15 minutes or so. You're seeing the radar here, and you heard it at the top of the hour. That latest track, the latest update from the National Hurricane Center, suggesting that perhaps Charleston was going to get a harder hit, essentially, a closer hit than initially expected. It looks like Savannah, which had been bracing for the worst, might be able to at some point soon breathe a sigh of relief. Although, again, this storm is continuing to move. We are continuing to track it. The risk of tornadoes is one that had been anticipated by weather experts. We are looking to see what the damage is, if any, on the ground. People, again, preparing the next 15 to 17 minutes now till 5:45 Eastern. That tornado warning in effect in the Charleston area. We are also watching what's happening in Florida. The storm has largely passed through there, leaving really a trail of destruction in its wake. That's where we find Jay Gray in Gainesville. And Jay, this is a storm that we believe had turned deadly. Talk us through what we know and what you're seeing.
Yeah, Hallie, we are being told by the Florida Highway Patrol that 2 people have died as a result of this storm. It appears that they were driving during the height of the storm earlier this morning, something obviously that had been warned against for days here. But it looks like there are at least 2 people who have perished as a result of the storm here in the area of Gainesville. We're a bit inland. We had a rough ride overnight and into the early morning. It obviously has cleared out. I would have never thought we'd see a little sunshine, but we have this afternoon. Of course, the most severe damage with this storm has been along a coastline where it made landfall early this morning. A wall of water 10 feet high or more, pushing into some areas it's never been. And then you had sustained winds of 125 miles an hour, really ripping through many of the smaller communities down there along the coastline. We know that some of the teams have moved into those hardest hit areas, though. Where there's still standing water, that's going to be an issue. They've got to let things clear out. They don't know what's below that water, what's floating in that water. So that may take a little time. We know that power crews have also rushed in after being staged outside of the strike zone. If there's any silver lining in all of this, and it's hard to find, Hallie, but it's the fact that this storm sped up once it got over land and moved through this area much more quickly than a lot of people thought it would. So that saved some of the low-lying areas from just a soaking rain that we expected here. Still a lot of damage, and you're right. This storm maintaining some intensity, a tropical storm now, but it was a hurricane for hours over dry land, and that's amazing with no fuel. I think it speaks to the idea of just how intense this storm was, how well organized it was. Now targeting Georgia, where we've already got substantial flooding, and then on, as you talk about, into the Carolinas through the evening, perhaps into the early morning before moving back out and getting out and slowly fading away.
Jay Gray, live for us there in Gainesville. Jay, thank you so much for being there, for giving us an update on what it's like where you are as people are starting to venture out, starting to see what the damage is from Storm Idalia. Appreciate it. We're going to keep an eye, obviously, on where this is going. We're going to have more coverage in just a second, but we want to get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, a federal judge is ruling today that the former president's former attorney, Rudy Giuliani, is liable for defaming 2 elections workers in Georgia. The lawsuit said he wrongly accused these 2 workers of mishandling ballots back during the 2020 election. The judge says Giuliani did not comply with any discovery obligations. A civil trial will be held to determine the amount of damages. Number 2, the Kremlin saying today the plane crash that led to the apparent death of Russian mercenary chief Yevgeny Prigozhin, who marched on Moscow a couple months ago, may have been, I'm quoting here, deliberate. It's the first time the Russian government has acknowledged that the crash may not have been an accident. They say investigators are considering several different versions of what could have happened that day. Prigozhin and all other 9 people on board are believed to be dead after that private jet crashed north of Moscow. Number 3, a Kansas sheriff's office says it does not think serial killer BTK is tied to a 1983 missing persons case. We told you how police had searched his former property last week. The victim in question, a 31-year-old woman whose body was never found. Officials are still investigating whether he's connected to other unsolved murders. Number 4, the mother of the suspended Spanish soccer chief is in the hospital, according to a local priest. She had reportedly locked herself in a church and went on a hunger strike to protest the backlash against her son after he kissed a player during their World Cup win. He's faced a lot of calls to resign, and Spanish prosecutors have opened a criminal investigation against him. Number 5, job growth slowing down a bit in the U.S., according to a new ADP report, which says private employers, so private companies, added 177,000 jobs in August, way less than what they added in July, close to 400,000, and a little under what economists had predicted. This is after some interest rate hikes, a sign that the economy may, in fact, be cooling down. Some new questions tonight about the health of the Senate's most powerful Republican. As an aide to Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell tells us the senator got lightheaded during a press conference today when he appeared to freeze while taking a reporter's question. This is the second time that something like this has happened in the last 5 weeks. We're going to show you the moment once. We're going to show you the full 33 seconds from when McConnell initially freezes to when he's able to speak again. Here it is.
Okay.
Senator, you're up for election in 3 short years. What are your thoughts on it?
I'm sorry, I had a hard time hearing you.
That's okay. What are your thoughts on running for re-election in 2026?
What are my thoughts about what?
Running for re-election in 2026.
Did you hear the question, Senator? Running for re-election in 2026?
Yes.
All right, I'm sorry, you all. We're going to need a minute. Senator Benny.
Yep.
Going to head outside, so come with us. Okay.
Somebody else have a question? Please speak up.
The senator took a few more questions, although not about that specific moment. And we're learning late tonight that Senator McConnell, who's 81, has been making calls today to his fellow Republican leaders who tell NBC News that McConnell sounded like himself. Sahil Kapoor is joining us now from Capitol Hill. McConnell's team tells NBC he was going to go see a physician. What else do we know about that and about who he's talking to tonight?
That's right, Hallie. That clip was somewhat uncomfortable to watch. And, you know, these health episodes seem to be becoming something of a trend for Minority Leader McConnell, who has been a senator since 1985, longer than I've been alive. He has had so few health episodes for most of his tenure, but this year, that seems to be changing. Let's show some of the recent ones. Earlier this year, in March of 2023, he was hospitalized with a concussion and broken ribs. In June, he had difficulty hearing at a press conference. Last month, he froze for the first time during a press conference, and just today, about a month later, he had a similar episode. Now, McConnell's aide says, yes, he felt lightheaded and paused. The aide says, quote, while he feels fine, let's show this. As a prudential measure, the leader will be consulting a physician prior to the next event. That's unlike last time when they did not say whether or not he would be speaking to a doctor. McConnell is calling some of his fellow Senate Republicans to reassure them, it seems. That includes, let's put these on the screen here, John Thune, his chief deputy in leadership, as well as Steve Daines, the Senate Republican campaign chair, whose task it is to try to win back control of the Senate for Republicans in the next fall's election. The spokesman for both men say McConnell sounded fine. He sounded like himself when he talked to them, Hallie.
There's been so much reaction to this tonight, Sahil, obviously, considering the senator's position in Congress here. On X, formerly known as Twitter, we saw his name trending along with the phrase age limits. Talk us through what else we're hearing on that front.
Yeah, there's been quite a bit of criticism, quite a bit of concern about how unusually old this Congress is, especially in relation to the American electorate that it represents. One politician who has gotten some criticism and quite a bit of concern for his age is President Joe Biden himself, who weighed in on this. He talked favorably, talked in positive terms about his relationship with Senator McConnell. Let's play what Biden said.
Mitch is a friend, as you know, not a joke. We always, I know people don't believe that's the case, but we have disagreements politically, but he's a good friend, and so I'm going to try to get in touch with him later this afternoon. I don't know enough to know.
And then there's Democratic Congressman Dean Phillips, who's been calling for generational change on both sides. He has also called on President Biden not to run for re-election in 2024. You see the tweet there. He's talking about various health episodes. He says, quote, "For goodness sake, the family, friends, and staff of Senator Feinstein," that's Dianne Feinstein of California, and McConnell, "are doing them and our country a tremendous disservice." He goes on to call for term limits for Congress and the Supreme Court, as well as some basic human decency. Hallie?
Sahil Kapoor live for us there on the Hill. Sahil, thank you very much. When we come back to Tropical Storm Idalia, and a big part of Cedar Key in Florida washed away. We're talking to one hotel owner, the owner of this building right here that you're seeing, about the support she's getting and what recovery could look like. We're also all over that tornado warning happening right now in South Carolina. We'll take you live to the ground there in just a sec. Want to show you some video that we are just getting into us from Goose Creek, South Carolina. Look at this. You can see, terrifying on the right side of your screen there, a car flipping over after what appears to have been a reported tornado in this area. This is just a bit north, a bit outside of Charleston, South Carolina. Again, this is an after effect, or a during effect, we should say, of Tropical Storm Idalia. And it is an example of how, although the storm has been downgraded from a hurricane, it is now a tropical storm, it is still powerful. It is still potentially dangerous, and it is still having a major impact in a huge portion of the Southeast. That includes Cedar Key, Florida, which is right now dealing with a whole lot of wind after some very dangerous flooding. Look at this. Trees down, roads flooded, homes underwater. I want to bring in Amy Firestein, a bed and breakfast owner, rather, an owner of this inn in Cedar Key that essentially collapsed and washed away in the storm. Amy, so many hearts go out to you. How are you doing?
We're doing fine. We just got back on the island to see the damage. We've lost at least one of our cottages is gone. Another cottage is missing the wall. Another cottage is missing a lot of walls, windows. It's a little devastating coming here. Our pavilion is gone. But I've had a lot of guests from the faraway inn calling me, texting me, reaching out to me, giving us a lot of support.
And you are, just to be clear, you're back at your inn now, and that's the damage that you're seeing. One of those cottages washed away, damage to other parts of it, right?
Yes, an entire cottage, number one, is gone.
Wow.
And number two is half. So.
I have to ask, Amy, have you even started to wrap your head around what it might be like to start to rebuild? And the reason that I bring this up is because we have seen so much of an outpouring of support from people all over the country. One person saying their family's been at your inn, they've stayed there for 50 years. Another person saying it's a slice of heaven. You seem to, you are a pillar of this community here.
Yes, we want to rebuild. It's going to take a little bit of time for sure. We want to rebuild it, make it how it was before. We loved working here. We love the community. Cedar Key is great. We also feel for those that have lost their homes and don't even have a home to live in. So we feel for them. Things can be replaced. We'll rebuild. The family has decided we want to rebuild, and we want our guests to come back again, and we appreciate them. I've gotten so many messages and text messages and phone calls, and I can't even respond to them all, with just outpouring of support to help us out, and we really appreciate it.
Do you feel like this community was adequately prepared for what was to come?
I do think the first responders, we have a great police and fire department here, they told us to be prepared. They evacuated the island. We were prepared. We knew that the surge could be really bad, and they told us and prepared us ahead of time. So yes, it's hard to come back and see it all, even though you knew it could happen.
Yeah. You had stayed, I think, something like 40 minutes away or 40 miles away from Cedar Key when the storm was passing through. What was it like trying to make your way back to your business?
We had to wait until the bridges were looked at to see if they were structurally sound, and then we're just given the clear just a little bit ago, so it's just the anticipation of waiting. Some of the locals were able to send us videos and pictures, so we kind of knew what we were dealing with. We didn't know that Cottage 1 was gone. That was something we found out as we walked up here this afternoon.
What do you want the rest of the country to know about the process moving forward now, Amy, and about how you and the people in Cedar Key are doing?
Cedar Key is resilient. We'll rebuild. The people are great here. We support each other. We want to help each other out. And it'll take some time, but we'll rebuild. We're a strong community. And they've accepted us in this community with open arms, and we appreciate them.
Amy Firestein, thank you so much for being with us. I know it has been just a difficult day and a long day for you and your family. Appreciate it. Coming up, obviously the damage from this storm could cost billions of dollars for business owners like Amy, for homeowners, for so many more. What it means for folks in Florida who already pay a whole lot more than average for insurance, and a lot of people there who cannot afford it at all. Plus, the other hurricane in the Atlantic making things worse for some of the spots dealing with Idalia, like in South Carolina. We're talking about that next. Let's talk about the threat of tornadoes now hitting the southeastern coast, specifically in South Carolina, where they have been under a tornado warning. And look at this. You can see Goose Creek, South Carolina, that car flipping, a reported tornado in that area. Let me bring in Bill Cairns, who is tracking this. Bill, I think that tornado warning was set to expire in the last 90 seconds or so. Has it?
Yeah, we've seen numerous. We got 3 active tornado warnings out there currently, Hallie, and that's what you expect in a tropical system. You get these tornadoes that are weak, but not weak enough not to do damage. They could tear your roof off your car. They could flip your vehicle. They're not going to devastate a town, but you can't see them. That's the problem. They're in these squalls and in the gusty winds, and I'm amazed that we actually have video that was that impressive from it. That from that dashboard camera. So yeah, we'll continue to keep an eye on all the tornado threats that are there. Yeah, you can see it moving from right to left, and then boom. It wasn't big. It wasn't large.
But it is tough to see. There's there's not a funnel cloud that's super obvious the way that we've seen in some other tornado systems.
No, there's not stuff that storm chasers can look at. And looking at the active radar throughout the area, this is what they were afraid of. You get these individual cells, and here's Charleston, and that little red icon shows you where another tornado was reported earlier too. You get these little cells in here, and we could get those little spin-ups. We're mostly concerned with those chance of tornadoes, Charleston northwards up towards Myrtle Beach in here, but we'll keep you posted on any new warnings.
Can you also talk about Storm Franklin? Because we've had Idalia. You have the people in Charleston and in South Carolina dealing with the threat of the tornadoes you just talked about. And out in the mid-Atlantic, this other storm that could be pushing a potentially record storm surge for Charleston. It is the confluence of 3 very uncomfortable events.
Yeah, we haven't talked a lot about Franklin because obviously Idalia was all on all our minds and all our attention. I'll actually step out of the way for this because it just looks very impressive. You can see it's not often they have 2 tropical systems this close to each other. Also, 2 tropical systems that are this huge. You can still see the huge eye on Franklin right here. Our friends in Florida can actually, especially in the Tampa area to Sarasota and Fort Myers, you can thank Franklin. I am pretty sure if it wasn't for Franklin, Idalia would have taken more of a right turn and gone right through the heart of Florida instead of going far to the north, because you can't, in between 2 storms like this, you have to have sinking air, because these are what we call low pressure. So that's air that's rising. So all of this air is going up. So in the middle, the air has to be going down. And a couple of days ago, when Franklin was a major hurricane here, that actually helped keep Idalia a little bit off the Florida peninsula. And I also made this graphic, and what a stretch it has been since 2016 for the state of Florida. So obviously Ian was the last landfall. That was last year. But they've had 6 hurricanes since 2016. 4 of them were major hurricanes. Irma, Ian, Idalia. Michael, of course, was the Category 5. The other 2 were Hermine and Sally. But, what a, we went, I think, 7 or 8 years with no landfalling hurricanes in Florida, and now we can't seem to get through a season without getting at least one. And with Idalia, we did see that, that what we've seen a lot with all of these Gulf storms, this rapid intensification. Yesterday morning at 2 a.m., it was only at 70 miles per hour, and then in 24 hours, it exploded over the very warm, record warm waters in the Gulf, some of it near 90 degrees. It only takes 80 to support a tropical storm or hurricane. It went up 50 miles per hour. So, Hallie, you talk about why did this storm happen and why was it so bad? The water temperatures is probably the #1 line of why it got so strong so fast.
Bill Cairns, thank you so much. Let me pull back and give you a sense of just what it looked like, what it felt like in Steinhatchee. We're just getting in some of this time-lapse video. You can see it here, essentially showing water levels going up, going up, going up, flooding the area outside this person's home, starting to cover roads. I mean, this is the storm as it's passing through. It's what the power of the water and that surge can do. The damage from this tropical storm, obviously making landfall as a powerful hurricane, could be in the billions of dollars. We're not going to know how much for quite a while because all of this has to be looked at, has to be assessed. That could be devastating for a state that is going through a home insurance crisis now, with people there paying something like 4 times the national average. There's plenty of homeowners who cannot afford that, so they don't have insurance at all. Brian Chung is joining us now. Still early here, Brian, but break down the numbers for us, early estimates in terms of damage, and then the insurance piece of this, too.
Yeah, well, I mean, if we take a look at other major storms, and Bill will just walk through some of the larger ones that have hit the Gulf Coast of Florida in the past, you can see that there have certainly been huge numbers. When you talk about even Michael, right, just $22 billion, but that dwarfs in comparison to Hurricane Ian last year, $115 billion, which is still small compared to Hermine in 2016 and then Katrina, of course, in 2005. For what's worth, for right now, the FEMA administrator, that is Deanne Criswell, has said it's a little bit too early to tell exactly what the impact is going to be in the early few hours of this storm. Take a listen to what she said in the White House press briefing earlier today.
It's far too early to even estimate what the cost is. It's still unsafe in many parts to even go out. That's what's going to happen over the next several days, is to really get a good understanding, an initial estimate of what we think the costs will be and what the amount of impact to these communities has been.
And for what's worth, I did speak to an insurer that was based out of Florida today and said that based off of what he's heard in the early few hours, there have been anecdotes of even outside of the initial large impact of the storm. As south as in Tampa, you're hearing of anecdotes of people already concerned about flooding because, Hallie, just 1 inch of flooding can inflict as much as $25,000 in damage to a home. So it's going to be, again, a very big number that we're probably expecting out of this, even if we're talking about areas outside of the main hurricane path.
Brian Chung, thank you so much. There are so many different pieces to this. Really appreciate you bringing that to us tonight. Still to come here on the show, the storm is affecting travel in a big way ahead of a big holiday weekend. We've got the latest on what airports are and are not opening. Lots of different moving pieces on that front as well. We've got it for you live in just a sec. So in just a couple minutes from now, we expect the airport in Charleston, South Carolina, to shut down, with the city bracing for the impact of what is now Tropical Storm Idalia. They hope to fully reopen by tomorrow morning, maybe around 8 a.m. But you know that because of this system, so many airports have been dealing with flight delays and cancellations. Nearly 1,000 already across Georgia and Florida. The biggest airport in the region, Tampa, reopening late today after some 300 flights had been grounded there. They're hoping to get things back to normal by tomorrow morning. Guad Venegas is monitoring that piece of the story. He's joining us now live. Hey, Guad, talk us through it.
Hallie, well, you know, yesterday when we flew into the area, I was originally going to fly into Tampa. That was the plan. And then I saw that it was closed, so we flew into Orlando. And, you know, airlines are doing what they can. I can tell you, I was flying into the area right away when I was ready to book or to check into my flight. I got a notification saying you can change your flight. So, of course, airlines have been getting much better about this, informing travelers about the options to rebook their flights. But, of course, it's a nightmare, especially with an airport like Tampa. That's not the only one. There's other airports that, of course, have been affected because of the weather, right? And I think everyone's waiting for that airport to open, being one of the largest ones. And, of course, passengers getting stuck in the area, which can create a chain event where some of these planes were supposed to go to another city. And we know already what happens when these types of shutdowns take place. But, of course, for those of us who fly in and out of storms, I think it's better for passengers to be diverted or not have to fly into a hurricane. I can tell you many times I've flown into these airports airports right before they shut down, and it is not a good experience, Hallie. But I think right now with the storm passing the state of Florida, people are looking forward to these airports reopening, especially the Tampa airport being the larger one in the area that had to shut down, Hallie.
Of course, it's a domino effect because as the storm moves further east, right, and gets hung up in Georgia and in the Carolinas, it's those airports that are starting to shut down, and that could potentially create a ripple effect here.
Right. So we know that the Savannah airport is still open, but they are canceling some of those flights. And, you know, as the storm makes its way north, we see more shutdowns north of us. But then we see other airports, like we were informed that the one in Sarasota, for example, that has reopened. So that's why we expect things to improve here as the weather improves. And that's just one of the aspects from the storm, right? The passengers that would suck. You can think of a lot of them that were perhaps here on vacation. The Tampa and Orlando areas are areas that have a lot of tourism. Fortunately, the Orlando airport wasn't affected, Hallie, but that would have been a huge nightmare for a lot of people who were in the Orlando area, of course, vacationing as the storm already made its way out of Florida. And as you mentioned, now affecting parts of Georgia and other places north of here.
Guad Venegas live for us there in Gainesville with the travel component to this. Guad, thank you. That does it for this hour, but we have a lot more coverage picking up right now. Hey there, I'm Hallie, and we are coming on the air tonight just as we are learning Idalia is now a tropical storm barreling through Georgia and up to the Carolinas. It is a deadly system and now spinning off the potential for more tornadoes. Take a look at this. This is video we're showing you here. A car appearing to flip over right there, right on the highway in Goose Creek, South Carolina, after a reported tornado that blew through. That is what this tropical system is spawning off. You can see pictures of that car here. Police say the two people inside that car were hurt. Minor injuries. They've been taken to a local hospital. On top of this, you have winds still up to something like 70 miles an hour. The storm surge, the possibility of flooding, still a huge potential problem, especially for Charleston. The latest update from the National Hurricane Center in just the last hour suggests that Charleston should and is bracing for impact. In Georgia, already knee-high flooding. Look at this. Water in garages, people pulling out the kayaks. A trail of destruction in Florida after Idalia blew through, too, making landfall as a Category 3, the strongest storm in that Big Bend area in more than a century. And as we speak, the urgent and desperate mission to rescue anybody who still needs help who hasn't gotten it. You can see crews have been out combing the streets in the panhandle of Florida. And there is a race now to restore power to the nearly 500,000 who do not have it. Although, look at this. Scary pictures showing why officials want folks to turn their power off if you have it and if your house is flooded because of the potential for fires. Look at the flames on top of that building. The wind still intense. Here in Perry earlier, 125 miles an hour. The roof blown off that gas station. The gas pumps taken right along with it. Houses ripped apart in that town. One of them left with basically only its walls, even if that. You can see that bed lying there right in the middle of what used to be a bedroom. On top of that, all the water flooding, not just from the rain, but the storm surge. A bed and breakfast in Cedar Key, totally washed out. That is the roof. Look, that is the roof of that inn, just hammered. The camera's going to pan. You're going to see furniture, the front door scattered all along the side. We just spoke to the owner of that bed and breakfast who says she plans to rebuild. She's back. She's looking at the damage. She wants this road to recovery to begin ASAP. The storm has turned deadly. 2 people have been killed in separate car crashes. And it's also been a headache for anybody trying to fly in or out of the state. Across Georgia and Florida, nearly 1,000 flights have been canceled or delayed. In Florida, some airports are starting to reopen. Others further east are shutting down as the storm shifts, including, just in the last couple of minutes, Charleston getting ready to do that. Pull back. This is how big Idalia has been. The International Space Station capturing these images from the hurricane as it flew over. And by the way, you can see some of those funnel clouds developing, too. We've got our team of reporters in the field covering every angle of this story, including Kathy Park in Charleston, South Carolina. This is where the action is headed, Kathy. The risk of tornadoes. And then in the next 2 hours or so, Idalia is set to blow right through.
Hallie, that's absolutely right. That tornado threat is here. It has arrived. There are several tornado warnings in place throughout this region, but I can confirm that a tornado touched down around 2:30 this afternoon, about 20 miles north of here in Goose Creek, South Carolina. Apparently, this tornado flipped over a car, injuring 2 people inside. As you can see, things are really starting to kick into high gear. The wind starting to pick up, the rain starting to fall. Behind me is the Charleston Harbor. The waves are crashing along the seawall right now, and this is really just a preview of what's to come. As you mentioned, the storm is headed this way. The big impact will be later on this evening, but it will be critical when we time out the storm. It could coincide with high tide, so it could lead to even more flooding in this region. Hallie?
I know that the folks there, the officials in Charleston, have asked everybody to stay inside starting right around now, 6 o'clock Eastern time. Is that what you've been seeing, Kathy? Have most people who were out sort of taking in what this moment was like gone back indoors?
Yeah, it's interesting you asked that question because we've actually seen a lot of folks here along the Battery watching this storm come in, and that is probably not a good idea because you can see the waves are crashing along the seawall. Things are starting to pick up, kick into high gear, and officials are saying you want to stay indoors. Don't risk the lives of emergency responders, and they could potentially get trapped in the floodwaters as we get later on to the evening. Now, earlier today, we heard from the governor and he issued this warning. Take a listen.
Stay home. Stay home tonight. Don't go sightseeing to see what's happening. Don't go driving around. There's nothing good going to come from that.
And Hallie, we should point out, even throughout the day today, we were seeing flash flooding in pockets of the downtown Charleston area. Even when there is just a thunderstorm that rolls through, flooding is a big concern. But once again, if it coincides with a high tide, we could be looking at some serious impacts, especially even inland here in Charleston. A lot of folks already getting prepared. A lot of the homeowners, the business owners, they know the drill. A lot of them have already stacked those sandbags in front of their stores as well as their homes. So they're getting ready for this. But as you mentioned, still a lot of folks out and about walking along the promenade here, taking it all in, but probably not a good idea, especially with the conditions worsening right now.
And the other complicating factor, of course, as the storm gets closer, gets ready to hit right near Charleston, is the fact that the sun is setting in just a couple hours. Darkness, we know, makes it tougher for rescuers, for these emergency crews to get out and do what they need to do.
Yeah, in fact, that was mentioned at the press conference earlier today. They're anticipating power outages as well, 200,000 roughly statewide. And they're saying they actually can't go out and do the repair work until the winds calm down. It has to lessen to 35 miles per hour or less for them to kind of continue the work. But obviously, as you can see, things are really starting to pick up. So probably a good idea to hunker down if you can.
Kathy Park live for us there in Charleston, as we can see, obviously, the scene behind you there and around you. Kathy, thank you so much. We'll keep an eye on those tornado warnings, the reported tornadoes as well. I want to get to Lindsay Reiser, who's live for us in Savannah, Georgia. Lindsay, talk us through what it's like on the ground where you are. I know it's been rainy and windy for at least a little bit now.
Yeah, we've got a steady rain right now coming in sideways, Hallie, and really what we're watching here is the Savannah River, because we have seen the waters get rougher and we have seen the waters get higher. And just as Kathy was mentioning, that is the concern here, that even though Idalia has been downgraded to a tropical storm, we could still see 70-mile-an-hour winds, and we could see also high tide colliding with those potential storm surges. And so we still have a storm surge watch. We have a tornado watch. Kathy was mentioning sort of what this hurricane and what all these elements are brewing up here. And the mayor is also concerned because Savannah is so low-lying and we're surrounded by water. So schools have gone virtual. City services have been suspended. The bridge behind me has closed. And we're not out of the woods yet. There are 80,000 trees in the city of Savannah, Hallie. And so obviously that is a big concern in periods of high wind.
Lindsay Reiser live for us there in Savannah. Lindsay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. I want to go now to meteorologist Bill Cairns, who's got more on the storm's track. Talk us through where it's hitting next. What is up with these tornado warnings, by the way, that you heard Lindsay and Kathy both mention?
Yeah, first thing I want to point out is just looking at our reporters, I got Lindsay and Kathy. You can see why my concerns are more with Charleston than Savannah. Savannah's only about an hour away from their high tide, and you can still see the river was pretty low below where she was. On the opposite side, Kathy's got 2.5 hours till high tide. Water was already splashing up over, you know, so yeah, you can just see why Charleston, if there's going to be the potential for a lot of that water to go over the seawall into the town and into the city, it's where Kathy is, unfortunately, in the next 2 hours. So, and that's because the reason for this is because of the winds. The storm was almost over the top of Savannah. When you're in the center of the storm, the winds are lighter. Out ahead of the storm, that's where the winds are stronger in the Charleston area. And that's going to be the case for at least the next hour, maybe an hour and a half, getting really close to that high tide. So, you know, areas further to the north, by the time the storm gets near Myrtle Beach and then the Wilmington area, you're approaching low tide. So that's why I'm not so concerned in mentioning you so much. It's really unfortunate just the Charleston area just seems to be that place that towards high tide and we're near the closest portion of the storm. So we do have the chance of isolated tornadoes. You know, we told you about the pictures and showed you there, not far from Savannah. Till 10 o'clock, we don't have any active tornado warnings at this time, but we have numerous strong cells, a lot of lightning still with the center of the storm, what was the eye at one point. A lot of lightning here, and here's where that tornado was, just north of Interstate 16 there around Goose Creek. And then another tornado was reported here just outside of Charleston, too. So we've had a couple out there, and this could continue through the night. That storm surge is coming ashore now. Right now, it's rising right around 2-foot storm surge. If we do 2 feet, it won't be devastating. If the storm surge is closer to 4 to 5, Charleston's going to have a top 5 all-time high water mark, maybe even top all 3. So we're hoping for the lower end of this. Right now, the gauges are showing us we're at 2 feet, so we can deal with that. Hopefully, it will stay that way. The winds, you know, we just saw Charleston about 31 miles per hour. We're not going to see a ton of power outages with winds like this. I'm just more concerned with that storm surge. And then also rain, too. We still have a couple areas that are under flash flood warnings here right along the border of Georgia and South Carolina. But all eyes on Charleston over the next hour and a half, Hallie.
For sure. Bill Cairns, thank you very much. We'll be checking back in with you and with Kathy Park and our team there in Charleston as the evening goes on. I want to bring in Tom Yamas now, who is live in Perry, Florida, which is near where the storm first made landfall. Tom, in just the last 5 minutes or so, we've heard from Governor Ron DeSantis there in Florida saying that the urban search and rescue team has gone through about 70% of the Big Bend area where you are, which speaks to the idea now of rescuers getting access to some of these spots that have been hardest hit. Tell us what you're seeing.
Yeah, Hallie, you have to understand that there are portions of the Big Bend area that have been completely cut off. Idalia has surrounded these communities with water, and some of these people, you know, they couldn't get out, they didn't evacuate, and then they were suddenly trapped and or stranded. There were several communities that we tried to get into after we left Crystal River this morning that you just could not get into. They were barricaded off because they were doing those urban search and rescue teams were in there along with the National Guard. We saw them with their high water vehicles. I had a chance to speak with Governor DeSantis earlier today. I had a chance to ask him a couple questions, and I asked him, what is your message to those people who are trapped right now? And he said, call 911. He goes, we have all the resources we can on the ground right now. He also mentioned to me that they are working with the federal government, because I asked him what President Biden had said at the White House, that they have put politics aside, that they trust each other. And I asked Governor DeSantis if the sentiment was shared. He said it was. He says right now it's all about rescuing people and saving lives. And speaking of saving lives, there's an incredible story just behind us here, Hallie.
Oh, I see somebody,
this is a giant pine tree that has crashed. Yeah, that has crashed into a home here in Perry. There was a family inside with a baby. When they heard the tree snap, the father jumped on his wife and the child to protect them. They somehow made it out alive. We spoke to that family. You'll hear from them later on Top Story tonight. I asked the dad what he thought. He said, listen, instinct just kicked in. I love my family. We heard that tree trunk snap, and I just jumped on top of them, and somehow they were saved. There's actually 2 trees. It's hard to see, but there's actually a second tree that also fell in the house, a smaller oak tree. But you see things like this, and you're shocked that people made it out here alive. All around Perry, people are in shock. They didn't think it was going to be this strong. Landfall was very close to here over on Keene Beach, and I think that's part of the problem. It was so close to this area in Perry. There's a lot of big oak trees, a lot of big pine trees.
Yeah.
Hallie, they're snapped completely in half.
So obviously horrific stories like what we're hearing of close calls in homes. And then there's the issue of the 500,000 people who don't have power in Florida and Georgia, partly, Tom, because of what you're talking about, these trees falling on power lines. Crews have to clear those roads to get through to make those fixes. Any sense of a timeline on when folks who don't have electricity might be able to get it back?
There are a lot of crews in the area, but it's still really dangerous. We drove up, as I said, from Crystal River up here to Perry. It's about maybe a 2-hour drive. And I can't tell you how many trees we saw that were just completely, snapped over onto the power lines. I'm talking about maybe 2 or 3 dozen trees all along the route here. Yeah. So it's going to take a lot of time. I mean, they had activated electric crews, power lines, and linemen to be out here ready to go. But it's going to take a long time. I spoke with one business owner who lost her roof at her hair salon. She tells me she thinks it's going to be weeks. And here's the other thing. It's pretty hot here. It's summertime in the Big Bend, 80 degrees. It's humid. And people are going to start to sort of feel those temperatures, and as they try to get through the night. And it's so tough at night, Hallie, when you try to live out here without power, no air conditioning, no refrigerator. Yeah. The bugs start to get you. It can get pretty dicey pretty quickly.
Yeah, especially when you got 97% of the people in Taylor County where you are who do not have power. Tom Yamas, thank you. We're going to look for more of your reporting tonight on Top Story and on Nightly News. Appreciate it, friend. Let's get to Savannah, Georgia now, where the mayor, Van Johnson, is joining us now. Mayor Johnson, thank you for being with us. We've heard live reports from both Florida and in Georgia. You now have the Savannah River, obviously, cutting through downtown. We don't have to tell you that it's a low-lying city here. Talk through what you're seeing as it relates to flooding, as it relates to the potential for damage from the water in your city.
Well, thank you. Good to see you again, and you're very familiar with our city. The storm is actually right outside our west door right now, extremely close. The storm surge has improved somewhat, but we still have significant issues with the wind. We have about 40,000 people without power right now. We do have trees that are down, so we're still asking people to stay in. And then, of course, the issue of the tide. It doesn't take much for Savannah to flood on a very good day. So we're concerned about areas localized flooding. So we're trying to keep our eyes open for that.
You've listed a litany of issues that you're keeping an eye on. What is your most urgent priority at this moment?
Right now, to make sure that people just stay put. Okay. We have people without power. We want to make sure that they just stay home. It's not over until it's over. We have trees that are out. We don't want anybody getting hurt. We pulled off our public works folks off the streets, but our first responders are on there. We don't want to put them in perilous situations this evening either.
We have been talking about the potential for tornado watches and warnings in areas where Idalia is moving through. We just saw some pretty disturbing video out of South Carolina, just north of Charleston here. Have you seen any impact from tornadoes? How much is that a concern for you at the moment?
Well, it has improved. We've had some impact earlier today, and certainly our thoughts are with our friends to the north of us in the Charleston area. Our situation has improved here, but again, tornadoes are very unpredictable, and the conditions are favorable for them to pop up. And so, again, that's why we want people not to be out in the streets. We want them to just remain at home, and let's just wait, hunker down until this is totally over and gone from us.
Do you have the resources that you need? Do you feel like you're adequately prepared and getting enough support from the governor in that state, from the federal government?
We've heard from the White House, we've heard from FEMA, we've heard from our senators, both Ossoff and Warnock, who's from Savannah, and then certainly been in contact with the state and the governor's office. I think we're okay. This is what we do. I mean, we know from June 1st to December 1st, we're going to be in this situation. So we practice, we plan, we practice, and now we execute.
Savannah Mayor Van Johnson. Mayor Johnson, it is good to see you again. Glad that you and your city are largely safe at this moment. Appreciate it. Let's take you back to Florida now, where we've just gotten that update from Governor Ron DeSantis and his team, as we're learning a lot of new information here about what the process will be moving forward. Guad Venegas is monitoring that as you're taking a live look now at that news conference. Guad, what do we know?
Hallie, so we know now that search and rescue teams have combed over 70% of that Big Bend area. So that's good news. They've moved forward and, they've got about 30% of that area to go through. Now, the governor also informed that more than 300,000 customers had their service restored that had lost their power. Now, the thing about that number is that as they've restored power, we've also had other customers lose power. So as of now, the latest data also indicates that there's still about 219,000 customers that are experiencing power outages in Florida. The governor also also indicated that about 10 hospitals had to be evacuated because of the storm, but they're working on bringing people back into those hospitals and making it safe for that, of course, to be safe. The governor also indicated that we don't have a shortage of fuel. Now, before the storm hit, the governor did say that they had set gallons, hundreds of thousands of gallons aside to be prepared for some of these outages, not outages, that is, for the shortages that could come as a result of the storm. And also, the governor did inform that they've cleared the path for people to go into Cedar Key. That's also good news. So they're moving forward as the storm made its way out. A lot of these search and rescue teams, the first responders and the power crews, they are working hard to restore power and to make sure that homes are safe for people to get back into their properties and, of course, get through the most affected area that was slammed by the wind, the rain, and that of course, that surge as the storm made its way through Florida, Hallie.
Guad Venegas live for us there with that. Guad, thank you so much. That update from Governor DeSantis. Jay Gray is also live for us in Florida, in Gainesville, where classes at the University of Florida are set to be back on tomorrow. And Jay, you have seen now already the process of reopening begin.
Yeah, Hallie, it's pretty amazing. A lot of the stores in this area that had closed down for the storm and planned to be closed throughout the day came in around midday and started reopening. That's how fast Idalia moved through the area, especially here away from the coastline. We had a rough night overnight into the morning here, but it cleared away pretty quickly. We are going to have classes tomorrow at the University of Florida, 50,000 students there. Most of them stayed in place and made sure they were safe. Some of them freshmen probably had never been through anything like this from other areas, and so quite a learning experience that I think many of them didn't see on their schedule when they registered to come to school here. We know that there are still pockets here in the Gainesville area and surrounding areas where there is damage, where there is standing water, and while you do see people out and about right now, what they're urging here on the ground is if you're in one of those areas or happen to see one of those areas, stay away right now. We don't know what's in some of the water. We don't know what the situations are. They're still working on power in some areas. And so this is going to be a process. But overall, it's really unbelievable, Hallie, to see how quickly things have bounced back. And I think that speaks, at least in part, to the idea that people were prepared here.
Yeah. Jay, all that said, this storm was still deadly as it made its way through the panhandle of Florida, through the Big Bend area, with officials confirming at least 2 deaths.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. The Florida Highway Patrol saying that at least 2 people died as a result of this storm. They were out driving during the height of some of the worst conditions here, and so the storm took their life. And you're right. While they bounced back here, not very far from where I'm standing right there, there are communities completely underwater. There are areas that have been ravaged by 125-mile-an-hour winds, and there are some spots, some of the neighborhoods that won't be accessible, not for days, but for weeks. We just heard Guad talking about 70% of the area that's been hit has been searched by these teams. They still have 30% to go, and that's in some of the toughest areas, I'm told, some of the areas where we still have some standing water. And once that clears and once they look at that, for families whose homes were in water up to the rooftop, they can't get back in right away, obviously. They're going to have a lot of work to do and a lot of decisions to make moving forward.
Jay Gray live for us there in Gainesville. Jay, thank you for being there for us. Appreciate it. We're going to keep on top of all of these developments on Tropical Storm Idalia now with our reporters posted up around the area, including in Charleston, South Carolina. You are looking live now at that city, dealing with a new tornado threat. As you can see, still a couple of hours from high tide, and that water already washing up in parts of the battery there in that city. We'll be right back. We are back now with our team coverage of what is now Tropical Storm Idalia, downgraded in just the last 90 minutes from a hurricane to that tropical system. Maggie Vespa is live for us in the state capital of Tallahassee. And Maggie, they had been bracing for the worst. They managed to escape most of it as the storm is now heading east. But this cleanup, the rebuild, it will begin now.
Exactly. It's already begun, Hallie. In fact, the governor just said statewide, just, power alone, more than 250,000 people have had their power restored across Florida, but that's not even halfway into where they need to be. 315,000, according to the governor, still without power. So it kind of speaks to just the magnitude of the work that they have that lies ahead. But you might be able to hear the collective sigh of relief that's happening here in Tallahassee. This city, the sheriff telling us, we'll hear from him in a second, but he told me, he said, we were really bracing, his words, for a Hurricane Katrina situation, and they feel like they really dodged a bullet. The numbers really show you here in Tallahassee specifically just kind of really how much worse things could have been. You can see right now officials are counting like 22 downed trees, 46 blocked roads, just over a dozen structures that were damaged, like 30 people, less than that, in shelters as of this afternoon. Again, they were bracing for far worse than this, and the sheriff says he feels like they really dodged a bullet here. Take a listen.
Our major concerns right now are outages, utility outages, electric outages. We've got about 40,000 persons without utilities in our community, without lights and power. We're very fortunate here in Leon County that we're talking about utilities being our only major concern.
So you heard 40,000 there. We just talked about the power restoration statewide. 40,000 was like around noon here in Tallahassee as far as how many needed to have their power restored. At last check, it's about 20,000 people. About half of that still need that done, still need power restored to their homes. At the same time, speaking to kind of the threat that exists in Tallahassee, I want to show you this image again because it is so striking. The state's first lady, Governor Ron DeSantis' wife, Casey DeSantis, tweeting out a photo of what she says was a 100-year-old oak tree that fell on the governor's mansion during this storm, saying she was home with the kids at the time, and then just saying that her thoughts and prayers are with everyone affected by this storm. And again, people across Tallahassee expecting far more kind of scenes like that, Hallie, expecting far more of sort of destruction like that to be way more common going into this storm. And the fact that that didn't happen, they're all just, again, breathing that collective sigh of relief across the area. Hallie.
For sure. Maggie Vespa live for us in Tallahassee. Maggie, thank you. To Washington now, because in just the last few hours, we've seen President Biden making very clear that the federal government and FEMA are going to be behind the people who are looking to recover, as Maggie has just laid out, from this storm in Florida, in Georgia, in the Carolinas, and beyond. And also touching on what seems to be this constant stream of natural disasters.
How can we not respond? My God, how can we not respond to these needs? And so I'm confident, even though there's a lot of talk from some of our friends up on the Hill about the cost, we got to do it. This is the United States of America.
The White House has already issued a disaster declaration for the state of Florida. That unlocks more resources to be able to help people as they begin to rebuild. NBC's Kelly O'Donnell is with us now live from the White House North Lawn. And Kelly, part of the issue here, right, and what you've heard talk of in your role covering the White House has been how this is in some ways the new normal because of climate change.
Very much so. And certainly Deanne Criswell, who is the FEMA administrator, pointed out that the federal response has to be working in several huge issues at the same time. Maui and what will be largely years of rebuilding there, and still immediate needs, urgent needs, and obviously watching what's happened with the hurricane crossing Florida and heading farther north as it threatens the homes and livelihoods of more Americans. How to deal with these competing issues at the same time when all of it's expensive and resources are limited. So today, she stressed that the federal response is imperative in these early stages, but also for the long haul. Here is Deanne Criswell, the FEMA administrator, talking to reporters a short time ago.
The president's main concern is making sure that we are bringing everything that we have in to support these states as they're having immediate response and life-saving needs. The president contacted Governor DeSantis to let him know that the federal family continues to be there to support him. The governor expressed that all of his needs are met currently.
Part of what the federal rollout has included is staging some of the food and water supplies in numbers that top more than 1 million for each of those categories, providing shelter for up to 20,000 who might be displaced by the damage of the storms, and obviously trying to have the kinds of personnel on the ground doing a lot of different things, from search and rescue to supporting the state resources like the linemen who are trying to get power back up and so forth. So the list list is long, the costs are great, and the president was also asked, given the fact that we're talking about Florida and Governor DeSantis, a candidate for the Republican nomination, did he sense any politics in their communications by phone? And the president said no, that he trusts that Governor DeSantis is putting forward his requests in the spirit of what the people of Florida need, and the president is taking him at his word for that, and believes that the interaction between these two leaders has been appropriately focused on those who need the help.
Kelly O'Donnell live for us on the North Lawn. Kel, thank you. As Kelly was giving us that report, we are also getting some news out of the National Weather Service based in South Carolina, and it relates to what you're seeing here on screen. This live look here at the battery in the city of Charleston. Tides in the Charleston Harbor, we've learned, are expected to pass 7 feet shortly, according to the National Weather Service. That means that the risk for what they described as major coastal inundation will increase fast over the next few hours. They're asking people to make sure that your cars are out of any of those flood-prone areas, probably some of the spots that you see on the right side of your screen and beyond as you head into that downtown area of Charleston. People need to be watching out for road closures as this storm is getting closer and that water level is getting higher. We're going to check back in on what's happening in South Carolina a little bit later on. We're also going to check in on all the developments happening in Washington and beyond. Some other news tonight, including the new questions about the health of Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, the Senate's top Republican, appearing to freeze again in the middle of a news conference. What we're hearing from his team about who he's now calling, plus some terrible turbulence on a Delta flight, putting nearly a dozen people in the hospital. What we know about how they're doing in our 5 things. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, a judge is ruling today. A 93-year-old former Catholic cardinal charged with sexually assaulting a teenage boy decades ago is not competent to stand trial. Theodore McCarrick appeared remotely via Zoom. Both prosecutors and defense attorneys agreed he's experiencing dementia. Pope Francis removed McCarrick from his position in 2019 after an investigation found he sexually molested adults and kids. McCarrick says he's innocent. Number 2, new video coming in today from Louisiana's fire marshal as they warn this wildfire danger there in the next 48 hours will be the worst this state has ever seen. At least 2 people have been confirmed killed in those fires in Louisiana. This month alone, they've seen some 600 of them. And officials warn there will probably be more fires in the next few weeks. Number 3, 11 people on a Delta flight had to go to the hospital because of super bad turbulence. The flight was going from Italy to Atlanta. It eventually did land safely, according to the FAA, which says it's investigating. A Delta spokesperson says the airline's priority is making sure to take care of the people who got hurt. Number 4, the overdose treatment Narcan will be sold over the counter soon. Its manufacturer saying today shipments are on the way. Stores like Walgreens say that drug will be available as soon as next week. It's going to be about $45 for a box of 2 doses. Number 5, the Biden administration is out with a proposal today to make it a lot easier for people to get eligible for overtime pay. It's going to make 3.5 million more people, in fact, eligible for that. It means you'd have to get OT if you make less than around $55,000 a year. Before this, it was like $35,000 a year or so. Labor advocates say this is overdue, but some business leaders are expected to push back. To the Hill now with new questions tonight about the health of the Senate's most powerful Republican. As an aide to Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell tells us the senator got lighthearted during a press conference today when he appeared to freeze while taking a reporter's question. This is the second time something like this has happened in just the last 5 weeks. We're going to show you the moment that happened today one time, including the full roughly 30 seconds from when McConnell initially freezes to when he is able to engage with reporters again. Here it is.
Okay.
Senator, you're up for election in 3 short years. What are your thoughts on it?
I'm sorry, I had a hard time hearing you.
That's okay. What are your thoughts on running for re-election in 2026?
What are my thoughts about what?
Running for re-election in 2026.
That's
Did you hear the question, Senator? Running for re-election in 2026?
Yes.
All right, I'm sorry, you all. We're going to need a minute. Senator Benny.
Yep.
Head outside, Senator. Come with us. Okay.
Somebody else have a question? Please speak up.
The senator took a few more questions, although not about that specific moment. We are learning late today that McConnell, who's 81, has been making calls to some other of his fellow Republican leaders who tell NBC News McConnell sounded like himself. Sahil Kapoor is joining us now live from Capitol Hill. And Sahil, let me just correct myself. I said his aide said he was feeling lightheaded. I said lighthearted. I meant lightheaded. That's what they're saying the issue was. They also said that he was going to see a physician. Do we know anything more about that? What else do we know about who he's talking with tonight?
Well, Hallie, it's the second time we've seen this very similar type of situation with Mitch McConnell in just over a month, and it's been quite an eventful year for the Republican minority leader when it comes to health episodes. Let's look at the timeline. Back in March of this year, he was hospitalized with a concussion with broken ribs. In June, he had difficulty hearing at a press conference. In July, that was the first time we saw him kind of freeze at a press conference, and then just today, a few hours ago, we saw similarly him freeze at a press conference. Both those times he did end up taking questions and appeared to be responsive to them shortly after. Now, a McConnell aide adds, in addition to the fact that he felt lightheaded and paused, says, quote, while he feels fine, as a prudential measure, the leader will be consulting a physician prior to his next event. That's something that they had not confirmed regarding seeing a doctor after the previous episode. Now, McConnell is making calls to some of his Senate Republican colleagues, including John Thune, his chief deputy, as well as Steve Daines, the Senate Republican campaign chair. You see what their offices are saying on the screen there. Thune's office says that the leader sounded like his usual self and was in good spirits in his call with McConnell. Daines says he was glad to hear the leader sounds like himself and is feeling fine. So words of support there coming from some of the other powerful Republicans in the Senate, Hallie.
There is so much reaction to this tonight, obviously, Sahil, considering the senator's position, of course, in Congress. We've also seen on X, formerly known as Twitter, his name trending with the phrase age limits. This is also part of the conversation, right?
Absolutely. There's been a lot of discussion about age, including in the unusually old Congress, as well as at the presidential level. You know, in 2017, Donald Trump became the oldest president ever to take office. Joe Biden, 4 years later, broke his record. And now it looks like these two men will be facing off against each other. Either of them, no matter who wins, is going to end up being the oldest president in American history at the end of their 4-year term. Biden said he considers McConnell a friend and spoke positively about him earlier today. Let's play what the president said.
Mitch is a friend, as you know, not a joke. We always, I know people don't believe that's the case, but we have disagreements politically, but he's a good friend. And so I'm going to try to get in touch with him later this afternoon. I don't know enough to know.
And then there's Congressman Dean Phillips, a Democrat from Minnesota, who's been calling for generational change in both parties. He had a tweet that you see on the screen right now. Says, quote, for goodness sake, the family, friends, and staff of Senators Feinstein, he's talking about Dianne Feinstein of California, and McConnell are doing them and our country a tremendous disservice. It is time for term limits for Congress and the Supreme Court and some basic human decency, unquote. No indication that there is anywhere near enough support in Congress for these members to impose term limits on themselves. Hallie.
Sahil, thank you very much for that. Coming up here on the show, a lot more on our top story. Tropical storm Idalia, with rescues happening right now, apparently in Taylor County. We're talking with the captain of the sheriff's department there, coming up in just a sec. Plus, the new tornado threat, now again facing the Carolinas. We've got the latest coming up. Intense wind today out of Tropical Storm Idalia, including in Perry, where this billboard dropped basically in slow motion, it seemed like, as winds hit nearly 100 miles an hour this morning. That is in Taylor County, which is where we find Gina Deason. She's joining us now, a captain with that county's sheriff's department. Captain Deason, thank you so much for being with us. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
We're hearing that nobody got hurt in your community, in your county just yet, which is a good thing. But are you having issues getting people out who need help?
Actually, at this point, no, we're been very blessed with it. That so far we don't appear to have. We have one death, which appears to be a natural death, but it may have been storm related. That is the only death that we have accounted for so far. Very little of injuries. We have a lot of property damage.
Property damage, trees down, from what I understand. We had a live shot from out of the Perry area earlier, and we talked with our correspondent on the ground about how many oak trees, big trees, were down. Has that been an issue for your personnel, Captain, trying to get where they need to go?
Yes, very much so. In fact, the trees may be cleared from out of the roadway so that you can get through them, but the ground is so saturated that whenever just a breeze blows and another tree will fall back down. So it's been a challenge with that.
Yeah, for sure. How about the power outages? Where do things stand on that front?
Currently, we're at about 100% of the county without conventional power. So,
yeah.
I'm not really sure when we're going to get that back, but we do have a tremendous amount of support that's coming in as far as related to power, as related to, we have National Guard, we have so many different agencies that are coming in and bringing in support. It is greatly appreciated.
Do you feel like most people heeded the warnings as this storm was getting closer to the coast of Florida, Captain? In other words, did people do what they needed to do ahead of this thing?
For the most part, a lot of people did, but we did have several who did not heed the warnings, and they remained in their homes.
And as far as you can tell, were those people able to ride this storm out safely?
It appears that they were, yes.
Yeah. Talk to me about the road to rebuilding, if you will. I know it is still early days. It is literally early hours here. Do you have any sense yet of a timeline on how long that would take?
Honestly, no, I do not have any.
Yeah, it is still early indeed. Captain Deason, we are glad to hear that most people that you've talked to seem to be safe in Taylor County, obviously a key part of our coverage here today. Thank you so much, Captain. Appreciate you being with us. One of the big reasons that the water level is getting so high right now in Georgia and in South Carolina as Tropical Storm Idalia moves in that direction is because there is actually a second big storm out in the Atlantic right now. That's Hurricane Franklin. It's not going to make landfall, but it does mean that you could see rising water in places not just like Savannah, where you see some of the rain on the riverfront there, but in places like Charleston. That is where that warning is coming in now from the National Weather Service about the potential now as high tide gets closer for the Battery area in Charleston's downtown to get flooded over. Bill Cairns is joining us now. Talk to us about what we're seeing, not just in South Carolina, but I know some tornado warnings that are probably just expiring, just in place in North Carolina, too.
Yeah, let's start with that Franklin connection to all of this. So there's been surfers that have been just on, camping out on the beaches because of Franklin. Franklin was a major hurricane, went between Bermuda and the East Coast. Still looks like a very well-defined eye here. And that has sent large swells and rip currents to the East Coast beaches. So we have the swells from Franklin arriving at the same time as the surge from Idalia. And that's just a little added wave action on top of it. So it's not really causing the water levels to rise much, but it is adding a little bit of wave action. Going back to that tornado threat, you can see the center of the storm is now exiting Savannah. It's almost kind of right over the top of I-95 here in southern portions of South Carolina. And it is going to slowly be heading towards Charleston over the next hour or two, and then Myrtle Beach towards the early morning. The strongest winds are coming on shore here near the Charleston area. High tide is roughly only about an hour, hour and a half from right now. Water levels are already into what we call minor flood stage, entering moderate flood stage. The expectations are to make it into major flood stage at that high tide in roughly an hour and a half from right now. And if it does so, it'll likely be a top 10 all-time water event. And how bad that flooding will be in downtown Charleston, we'll wait and see how this all times out and how it all plays out. We've also got extended flash flood warnings all through this area, this bright band just south of Orangeburg. Right over the top of I-95, it's just pouring and it's not moving that fast. So that area is of great concern, too. That tornado watch does continue here till 10 p.m. I am noticing a new tornado warning not far from Wrightsville Beach, just south of the Wilmington area. And that's going to be heading northward. So we'll keep an eye on that, too, as we go throughout the next couple hours here. So, Hallie, well, those pictures out of Charleston will tell the story. I know the sun is setting at the same time, unfortunately, so it's going to be hard for people to see what's going on there. But, we had Kathy Park on earlier in the show, and you saw the water splashing, and it's only going to get worse.
Well, we're about to hear from the Charleston Sheriff in just a second. Bill Cairns, thank you very much for that as we're taking another live look there at downtown Charleston. We talked about the threat from tornadoes out of Goose Creek, which is just a little bit outside of Charleston, just 20 miles or so north. Drivers were on the road as one of these reported tornadoes blew through. I want to play it for you. Listen.
Holy that car's flying! What the What the
Very scary moments there. We know 2 people in that car were hurt, ended up at the hospital with what police described as minor injuries. We're going to keep an eye on that. I want to bring in now, though, Sheriff Kristen Graziano from Charleston. You are there. Sheriff, thank you for being with us. Tell me, first of all, what you're seeing. We just got the forecast from Bill. We know water levels rising are a big concern here.
Yeah, huge concern. So we expect the water levels to be elevated by 8 o'clock, about high tide. Right now is a king tide. And right now you can tell the wind's really picking up. This is not your typical Charleston weather, obviously. So we are really concerned about what you saw on that video, people being out in this weather right now. Really, really bad situation. It puts our first responders in a bad spot if they have to go get you. So we're really encouraging folks to stay indoors, hunker down, and let us ride this out tonight.
Are you encouraged that people are taking those warnings seriously, Sheriff?
So far for us, they have. You know, that incident happened early on today as work and school and everything was letting out. So that happened pretty early. But so far the traffic is minimal on the roads, and we don't have any reports of any accidents at this time.
When the National Weather Service warns that you could see tides of up to 7 feet, passing 7 feet, put that into context for those of us who don't live in Charleston. How rare is that? How much of a concern is that?
So your average tide variance here is about 3 to 4 feet. So add another 3 to 4 feet on that. We're at or below sea level in most places in the low country. So you're looking at standing water 3 to 4 feet in the roads, and then add the storm surge on top of that. It all depends on which way that track goes. I think you heard earlier, if it stays a little more to the west and the tide's going out, maybe the back side of that, the south part of that, the wind rotation will push that water out of the harbor. We're just praying for, everything, the stars to line up so that happens. But right now, the tide is still coming in. The wind is starting to pick up. I think the storm is just coming in right around the Georgia line right now, Savannah area. So we have about another hour and a half before it's dead high tide, and that's really going to be time for us to watch out.
Of course, in another hour and a half, the sun will be going down, and I know that it is a complicating factor, right, for your personnel, for others to be out there working on potential rescues in the dark.
Yeah, and you see the wind swirling now. When the winds get to be about 35 miles per hour, we'll close the bridges as well. So it's going to keep people, if they're on the road and they're trying to get from point A to point B and have to go over a bridge, they're going to be stuck. So we're just trying to encourage people to just hunker down where you are, stay where you are. Hopefully the worst end of this will be when everyone's asleep, and then in the morning we can survey the damage and pick up the pieces for sure. But our thoughts and prayers really go out to the folks, our neighbors to the south. They have really taken a beating, especially in Florida and parts of Georgia. So we're keeping them in our hopes and prayers, and we're preparing for the worst and hoping for the best here.
That is for sure. Sheriff Kristen Graziano, thank you so much for being with us. So many people around the country thinking of you, of course, and your community over the next 90 minutes, 2 hours or so. Appreciate it. We've got a lot more to come, including the estimate on damage from this storm. We don't know what it could be. Maybe in the billions of dollars. We'll tell you what it means for folks down south who already pay a lot more than average for home insurance, some of whom cannot afford insurance at all. Stay with us. So the damage from Tropical Storm Idalia could be in the billions once all of the damage, all of the devastation ends up assessed in the days, the weeks, the months to come. It is a devastating storm for Florida, going through a home insurance crisis right now with people paying like 4 times the national average. By the way, not just in Florida, by the way, the damage. We are looking live here at Charleston, South Carolina. I just want to show you for 1 second. What you're looking at is you see some of those cars driving by. Now, reminder, the governor of South Carolina has asked people to be indoors at this point. We don't know what kind of cars we're seeing, if those are emergency responders, et cetera. But the flood risk is very real, particularly in this part of the city. We know that the tide could hit above 7 feet in the hour and a half to come. We just heard from the sheriff of Charleston, who tells us that typically the tide's at maybe 3 to 4 feet. So we're talking twice as much as what the water levels typically are. Wow, look at that. You can see those waves crashing over the top there. I wonder, we don't have a closer shot here. Obviously, our crews have moved to a safer location of what the actual roadway looks like, but there is a major concern now about the possibility of flooding. People have been asked to move their cars to higher ground. They've been asked to move up and in and to stay inside. That is the key message from folks in South Carolina. It is a message that we heard reflected earlier in Florida, maybe 12 to 18 hours ago, as Tropical Storm Idalia was then a hurricane, a powerful one, slamming into the Big Bend of that state, a place that has never seen a major hurricane and is now reeling from the impact. We're talking about a state, Florida, that has a lot of people who do not have insurance because they cannot afford it with the price so high right now. I want to bring in Brian Chung as we stay in some of these live pictures here and some of these images to talk us through all of this, Brian, the damage, the insurance issue, et cetera.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the insurance issue, because what's really interesting is that when you talk about a state like Florida, about 18% of homeowners have flood insurance policies, which implies that 82% don't. And that's a really scary situation where, yes, we're looking at Charleston, South Carolina right there, and you're seeing those waves kind of crash over. All it takes is 1 inch. 1 inch of flooding in your home to do about $25,000 in damage. And a lot of people that don't have flood insurance would say, well, I could just bank on FEMA helping me out if something really happens to my home. Well, consider that a lot of FEMA grants might only be about $10,000. That's not going to be enough to build a new home, and it might not even be enough to cover 1 inch of water damage. So this is a really concerning statistic. A lot of homes, again, they do go through the federal insurance, what they call the NFIP, to get that insurance. But again, only 18 or 13% of homes, 18% of homes in Florida have that coverage. Something definitely worth watching, especially after the many other hurricanes in the past few years that have really been impacted there, Hallie.
Brian Chung, thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. We are obviously continuing our coverage here from every angle of Tropical Storm Idalia. We'll have more tonight on NBC News Now and right back here tomorrow on this broadcast. Top Story picks up our coverage live from the storm zone with Tom Yamas right now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.